So as always, we start with, how about we start with our pledge? So if you guys want to just unmute and we'll, try our very best to get through it. I know it's tough when we're on Zoom, but I pledge my head to clear thinking,
my heart to greater loyalty,
my heart to
my
greater
hands to larger service, and my health to better living, for my club, my community,
my
community, my country,
world.
and my world.
And so, as always, we need to thank our supporters for this event. Our Diamond Clover sponsor is Alberta Government. Emerald Clover sponsors Alberta Recycling, AltaLink, ATB, Calgary Stampede Foundation, CPA, Chartered Professional Accountants, and UFA. Our Gold Clover sponsors are AFSC, PV Mart, Save on Foods, Silver Clover, Brandt, and Wolf Carbon Solutions. And then our bronze sponsors, Federation of Alberta Gas Co-ops, Gas Alberta Inc., MCS Net, Olds College, Green Clover, Plains Midstream, Farm Credit Canada, and 4-H Canada National Partners is also Farm Credit Canada. So we thank them. If you ever get the opportunity to thank them, if they're in at anything that you are participating in, that would be awesome. But that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to pass it over to Michelle.
All right.
Michelle's gonna give us lots of good ideas tonight.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody. I'm happy to be back. I know I was with you all a few months ago, and we did a lot of virtual activities. And so now the request came in that let's do some activities to really teach us how to do some really good in-person team building with our kids. So that's what tonight's focus is going to be on. I have a lot of video to show you of people actually playing and doing the game, so you can kind of see, you'll be able to hear me give the directions. And again, this is being recorded, so you can go back and watch. I also have a handout that I'm going to put a link in the chat box right now to the handout for tonight as well. So, I'm going to populate that real quick, and then you can click on that link and have it. Another thing that I want to point out is, here, I'll go ahead and share my screen. So the handout this is the handout that you get. It's basically just my slide deck that in a PDF format. So of course the videos won't play in a PDF and things like that. But what I want to point out also is that if you have your phone readily available, if you want to scan this QR code, that QR code will actually take you to a spot on my website where I think I have 6 or 7 different free handouts right now. I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like as well, where it's at, in case you can't capture that with your phone yet. But on my website, I'm gonna sneak over there now. So I've got it pulled up and ready. And don't worry, it's in the handout. So if you ever like, I didn't get it yet, it's okay. It's in the handout as well. And the handout link is in the chat box. But this is my homepage. So it's just training-wheels.com. But if you come over here under resources, there's a drop-down menu. And there is a button here that says free resources and handouts. And so if you come here and click on this, these are all of the workshops that I'm presenting currently. I'm back in person now, sharing, doing workshops in person. And so I will change these out often. So like the virtual team building activities, that one is from the one that I did way back in the pandemic that has been out there. I mean, I think my videos on YouTube has now been watched like 80,000 times or something like that. So a lot of the free webinars I did early pandemic are still all on YouTube, and those handouts are there. But like tabletop team building is a brand new presentation I'm doing next week in Orlando at the Training Magazine Conference. Team building for the toy aisle is another, that's from my new book that just came out. I don't know if I have a copy of it nearby, but it came out in August, and it's all games and activities, team building activities. Because probably all of you have found yourself standing in the toy aisle at some point in time in your career and going, how could I use that with my 4-Hers? Or how could I use that in a training, in a workshop? And so we basically took, I think there's 20 different games that we selected off our game shelf. And then the book itself has 50 different activities that you can do that are team building related, using the props and pieces and ideas and concepts from the games from the toy aisle. Staff training activities. Simon Says is a teaching tool. If you have not played Simon Says the Michelle way, you need to play that way. Pairing and sharing activities, more virtual team building activities, things like that. So anyway, so just know that if you just throw your first and last name in there, and you get access to all of those handouts. So all right, and then of course, also in that resource section, this is where you'll find the virtual playground games. So what we kind of did right there at the very beginning, if you're still in the virtual space and want to play, there's lots of different kinds. There's the dice breaker ones that we played. There's some with playing cards. There's wheel of names. There's icebreaker questions. Lots of different ways to play in the virtual space as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So I know that so I'm Michelle Cummings with Training Wheels. I think most of you know that already. And I think a lot of you were in my session. I'm going to move my chat box so it's not over the top of my slides here. I think a lot of you were in the workshop last a couple months ago. So most of you know me through Training Wheels, but I also have two other companies that I work with. So Training Wheels is a portable team building company. And so that's what I'm represented and playing with you tonight. But I also have a leadership development company called Personify Leadership. And this is a curriculum. It's a leadership curriculum that I created, that it's a 2-day course. It's a 16-hour in-person course. And it is one of my favorite things that I've ever created. And it focuses on 8 core competencies of effective leadership. And we teach, good, easy to learn skills that people can implement immediately back in the real world. And we use the metaphor of the body to anchor those 8 competencies. So the heart of a leader, how do we lead with intent? How do we build trust and respect amongst those we lead? The mind of a leader is how to be an emotionally resilient leader. What are our stress triggers? How do they affect our ability to lead? The voice and ears are communication modules. How do we be a good listener? How do we deliver a good message? And so on. So anyway, if you're curious about that, it's just personifyleadership.com and you can go and learn a little bit more about that. And then I also wrote a novel. Like, it's one of those things that I challenged myself to challenge my writing style. And I wrote a novel a few years ago called The Real Sisters. And it's about a group of women fly fishers. And it actually just got picked up by a screenplay writer and it's being turned into a movie. So that's kind of fun. So if you're looking for a good book for book club, then that would be a great book to pick up. And I would actually dial in. I would zoom into your book club if you want to as well. That's one of the things that I think is fun and that I do. So, all right. So, but tonight we are going to dive in. And I chose the name Training Wheels for my company because I love the metaphor of the training wheel. And that really, we only use training wheels for a little bit when we're learning how to ride a bike. And then after that, we take those training wheels off. And then we own the skill. So that's what tonight's about, is I'm going to show you a ton of activities that you can do with your 4-Hers. I'm a 10-year veteran, or 10-year, I was in 4-H for 10 years. So I'm an alumni of 4-H and I love 4-H so much. I know that I'm successful as a public speaker today because I've been doing it since I was in the 2nd grade because of 4-H. So I love it when I get to give back to 4-H because it gave me a lot when I was a kid. So we're going to dive in and so I'm going to kind of just high level overview one of the team building games. And then I'm going to show you a video of me presenting that game with a group. So thumb balls, if you're not familiar with a thumb ball is, it's a great ball that when you throw it up and you catch it, you look under your thumb and then there's 32 panels on each ball. So there's an answer that you would, a question you would answer underneath your thumb. And it's simple surface level sharing. And what I love about this is I know that you probably have some people that show up late to your meetings from time to time. So this is a great one, easy for latecomers to just slip right into a group. And, the person next to him just say, hey, catch the ball, look under your thumb, answer the question. And also very easy to make on your own. If you have any type of soft ball or round item of some sort, just you can either write questions right on it, or if you look in your camera view right here, you could also do something that's called a numbers thumb ball. And that way, then if you had a PowerPoint associated with, this one here has 12 different numbers on it. So if you had 12 different icebreakers listed up on a PowerPoint, and you're in person, then they could, when they catch it, they're looking at them. I'm like, oh, question number 3, and then they could answer question number 3. Or you could write up your questions on a flip chart paper. Doesn't have to be super techie if you're not a techie person. So, but it's super easy to make on your own. So let's watch a quick video of the icebreaker thumb ball.
This here is called a thumb ball. Now, it's called a thumb ball because when you throw it in the air and you catch it, you look under your thumb and you answer the question that's underneath your thumb. Pretty simple. This has pre-printed panels on it. There's 32 different things on here. And this one here is called the Who Are You thumb ball. So it's like the icebreaker kind of question. So anything from your favorite toy or game, choose a magical power, 3 gross foods, a fun sport to play, best snacks. So just things that are more your personal preferences. In a minute, we'll divide into 2 separate groups, because I have 2 different balls, and that way you get to know a few more people, names, and a little bit smaller. There's 17 of us in the program, so we'll have a group of 8 and a group of 9. So when you catch it, first tell the group your name. If you want to tell them where you're from, what you do, like the role that you play at your organization, you can, and then answer the question that's underneath your thumb. And then when you're finished, underhand toss it to somebody else. They'll catch it. Tell them your name, and then answer the question that's underneath your thumb. Okay? Any questions on what we're doing? All right. Let's have one circle right here and another circle right there, and then I will each bring you. There you go. You may begin. Otis, I'm going to let you be the starter of this circle over here.
She got it. She got it.
So my name is Joan. I'm from half the year Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
All right. So one thing I love about the thumb ball is that it facilitates itself. It's so easy. You just hand it to the kids and they just, boom, they just take it and run with it. And so it doesn't take a lot of, it's not a super hard one. It's not hard for you to explain. It's not hard for them to do. And, there's been times where I've had kids like ask for it, like, hey, can we have a thumb ball thing? That was really fun. I'm like, absolutely. More kids want to learn more about one another. Of course. So I love the thumb ball. And again, you can make that on your own really easily. We have a whole line of thumb balls at Training Wheels, but you never have to buy anything from me. You can always, with a little creativity, you can totally make some of these things on your own. In fact, most of the games tonight are going to be non-prop games because I figured that would be the best. I think the first few have props to them. And then after that, most of all of them are non-prop games. So you'll have stuff that you could do tomorrow. If you've got groups that you're leading tomorrow, you could totally do them. So, all right. Are thumb balls new for you all? Have you seen thumb balls? They've been around for about 10 years or so. So they're not necessarily new, but some people still haven't seen them yet. So I like to always point them out because they're so easy and whatnot. So. And I don't know if there's a 4-H specific thumb ball. Does anyone know if there is a 4-H specific thumb ball? Lena says you haven't seen them yet. New to you too. Okay, awesome. And the nice thing too is, oh wait, did someone say that there was one?
No, I said I don't think there is, but
Okay.
that would be something we could do.
I know because when I have thumb balls made, you have to order them in quantity. So you have to order like 576 of them at a time to do a custom design. So, and that's like a random number, but that's seriously the number. But I think there's a 4-H store, like an online store that is like specific to 4-H. And I think that they might have, so that would be worthwhile of a search to look and see. So anyway, but check and see if there's one. If you do a little search, you might be able to find one, but that one would be great. To do for just as 4-H, and then of course do it in 4-H green. And then the questions could be very specific just to, things that you guys do in meetings or just icebreaker questions that are, tailored a little bit more towards maybe some of the different, what's your favorite 4-H project? Just things like that are not just your basic surface level questions, but a little bit more tailored to your particular groups. So, okay, awesome. So, and then also not only can you do that for icebreaker questions, but you can do it for debriefing questions. So I love, in fact, I've got, let's see here. Here's one here. This one here is one of my debriefing thumb balls. And this just it's called my body part debrief thumb ball. So with 4-H having head, heart, hands, and health, This one here would kind of play in nicely to it, but basically the review questions on it are like this one here with the brain. Describe a good idea that you heard this evening. Name something that was hard to hear with an ear. With the eye, what's something new you saw in somebody else tonight? With the lungs, how can this experience breathe new life into your day to day? With the spine, what's one way that you had to be flexible? With the hand, what's one way you felt supported? So it's a great way to get people talking at the end of a session as well, and really get them kind of reflecting on the experience that they had. So, all right, I'm going to pull my chat box down for a second. Yeah, writing on beach balls. Absolutely, Chris. That's a perfect way to make your own. Absolutely. Super cheap at the dollar store, and pick up a bunch of beach balls and just make your own. Absolutely. So, okay, cool. Let's move on to our next activity. And let's see here. All right. Icebreaker wheelies or icebreaker questions. This here falls into the pairing and sharing. So if you downloaded that handout, you'll definitely see a lot of activities like this. But pairing and sharing activities are just when you get two people together and get them talking. And what I love about it is, especially at the very start of a program or a meeting night or whatever it is, whatever kind of event you're doing, is that sometimes when people get there, they're a little shy, and it's so much easier to have a conversation with somebody one-on-one than it is for me to maybe talk in front of the whole group. So it's a really, it's a safe way for people to really start opening up and sharing a little bit. Great way to meet new people. And what I like about the way that I do it is, I give everybody a card. I tell them, go find a partner, and then you'll ask your question to your partner, they'll answer. And then the reverse, then your partner will ask you their question and you'll answer. And so what I like about that is that it allows the conversation to come into a natural end, and then you trade cards, go find a new partner. So because sometimes when you do some icebreaker questions, if you ask one question and everybody's answering the same one, some groups take a little longer to describe, other groups, maybe answer it really quickly. So for those that get done quickly, they might be like, okay, well, this is awkward. What do we talk about now? Right. So what I like about this is that as soon as the conversation comes to a natural end, they trade cards and go find a new partner. So and then I encourage like 4 or 5 different partner exchanges. So this is another great one. If you have latecomers, they just slip right in, you hand them a card. People don't even know they showed up late. So, all right, let's watch. And you can customize your questions, just like we talked about customizing questions for the icebreaker thumball. You can do the same thing for icebreaker wheelies. I've got a set here. This is about how big they are and what they look like. I've this one here are my icebreaker wheelies for kids cards. So they're just, they fit about, about the size, palm of your hand, if you will. And you just hand everybody one card, and then they go and find a partner. So, all right, let's watch a quick video on the icebreaker wheelies.
The first thing we're going to do is, naturally, when you're sequencing an activity, you're probably going to start out with some icebreakers and some name games, right? My favorite way to start programs is what I call the technique of pairing and sharing. Because usually, right now, if I were to stand here and if I were to ask some questions, I'm going to guess that we haven't broken the ice in the room yet, right? So some people are like, I'm not talking yet. I don't know these people, right? So all of my icebreakers start out with getting 2 people together and pairing up and sharing an icebreaker question of some sort, because people are more comfortable sharing one-on-one usually than what they are in a large group. So I have a handful of icebreaker activities that I love to use that do just that. And it really does warm your participants up to talking. So later when I go to ask a question, you've now at least shared a little bit about yourself with other people here in the room. So it does help them be able to share later. So I have some cards here that I call wheelies. Now you're going to learn about me. I'm a very big girl of metaphor. I chose the name training wheels for the company because I love the metaphor of the training wheel. Because how many of you used training wheels when you were learning how to ride a bike when you were a kid? Okay. Now I actually didn't, because I have 2 big brothers and I grew up right by a really big hill. So I got the push and the crash and burn method, but that's okay. I still like the metaphor of the training wheel, is that usually we only use training for just a little bit, right? And then we take that training wheel off and then we own it. So anyway, these cards here are called the Your Turn at the Wheel cards, or wheelie cards. And I chose the name for these because, just as if you were driving a car, there's times it's your turn at the wheel, and in conversation, there's times we're driving the conversation. There's other times where we're the passenger, right? So these are just icebreaker wheelies. So what they are, they have a variety of different icebreaker questions on them. So if you had a card and I had a card, then in a minute what you're going to do is you're going to go find a partner. Now, if you need a partner, this is the universal sign for I need a partner. It looks like this. Okay, and I call it lost and found. So this means I'm lost and I need a partner, and this means found. Hi, my name's Michelle, right? So lost and found, and I find that if you do that at the very beginning of your program, your participants will naturally just start doing it. Then once you do, and you both have a card, then I would ask you my question. So what is the longest line you have ever stood in? And then she would answer, and then you would ask me your question.
Where would you live if you could live anywhere in the United States?
And then I would answer her question. And then after we're finished, we're going to trade cards and then go find a new partner. So we're asking and answering new questions and meeting new people. Okay? Now, because this is our first activity, make sure you get their name and spend a few minutes, just getting to know the person as well. But ask each other the question, trade cards, go find a new partner. Try to get through 4 or 5 different partner exchanges. Any questions on what we're doing? All right, then pick a card, any card. There you go.
All right, that one is also one of my fan favorites, because it's so simple to facilitate. And again, the questions, you don't have to come up with the questions because you've already come up with the questions, especially if you created your own deck. So, so it's easy for people to just go find a card, find a partner, and then ask each other the questions. So really simple. And again, you can customize your questions. So, and again, because it works great for the icebreaker, it's also great for reviewing and reflection as well. So you can do the same thing. So at the very end, take some of the questions maybe off of the debriefing thumb ball or something like that to where, what did you learn tonight? Give an example of when you included another person. Did you talk to new people tonight in the meeting? Things like that. And then, so if you start out the meeting with the icebreaker wheelies, then you can finish up the meeting with some debriefing wheelies or debriefing questions as well. All right. So, if you think about it, the main intent, when you're thinking about doing experiential activities and team building activities with your kids, really the main intent of doing experiential activities is to surface behaviors in particular that you want to teach content in or develop or reinforce skills in. And if I think back to my 4-H days, anytime we were asked to do, a project, or if we were leading any type of poster activity or anything like that, in meetings, is that we had to physically we had to create the posters, we had to do the project, and whatever it is, or the object lesson, whatever it is. And so if you think about it, when we're doing team building, we're doing that same thing. If we wanted to teach leadership activities, then we're going to do an exercise that actually surfaces the concept of somebody being a leader, right? And that's the main intent of why we do them. And then we debrief it, and then we talk about what just happened, why it's important, and how does this relate back to the real world, and how can it help us in our club? And so to do that, of course, on a regular basis, you need to have a large repertoire of activities. Now, I've been facilitating for almost 30 years now, so I have a pretty decent breadth of team building activities, but I didn't learn them overnight by any means. I've had a lot of years of doing it. So one thing that we do have at Training Wheels, we do have an online games database it's a subscription-based service, but I have over 500 write-ups in there of different team activities. And so then you can type in keywords and you can go quickly to find activities. You can even type in a prop. Maybe you have a hula hoop and you like, what can we do with a hula hoop, right? Then you can go type in hula hoops, and all the games that I have that you could use with hula hoops pop up. So just know that that's there as a service. Another way to really get a lot of activities new that maybe at no cost or a little cost would be to go to conferences where they're doing team activities. I present at 15 to 20 conferences annually, and I'm always doing team building activity workshops. So another place is to find some groups on social media. There are a lot. There's one group on Facebook that is interactive group games, and there's like 3,000 members. So maybe you are going to do, maybe you're like, I need a new leadership activity to do with our kids. Well, so go type a question like, what activities are your favorites to do that surface leadership and, public speaking or something like that. And then you've got 3,000 people that could potentially comment on that. And you probably get a lot of really great ideas that way. So you could be creative with how you gain access to those new activities as well. And of course, there's lots of books and other things like that. But anyway, there's ways to do it on a budget as well. So, all right, I got I think one more, maybe two more activities that have props, and then we'll move into all of our non-prop activities. 52 card pickup. How many of you played 52 card pickup the old way when you were kids? Curious, right? If you didn't, then you don't have an older brother named Darren like I do, because that is how I learned how to play the original game of 52 card pickup. But the old version of 52 card pickup, of course, was your older brother Darren would come and say, "Hey, Michelle, you want to play a game?" I'd be like, "Yeah." And he would throw a deck of cards on the floor and he would say, "A 52 card pickup." So not the most fun game, right? So, but now I've changed the rules to 52 card pickup, and now it's one of my favorite games. So I'm going to show you this video because it's awesome. And this is one that you can really easily create on your own. So I'm going to share with you 52 card pickup. Again, super favorite activity that I do now. And honestly, it's also the one where I can surface whatever behaviors I want to teach in that I want to teach or reinforce in the club that particular meeting. I could find those behaviors in these 52 behaviors, in these 52 cards. So let's watch the video and then I'll debrief it afterwards.
This afternoon, we're going to start diving into surfacing behaviors. The experiential activities, really, the main intent of those is just to surface the behaviors that your participants are experiencing back in the real world, whether that be a kids group or a corporate group, no matter what you're doing. And sometimes we don't always know what's going on with a group. So I have a few activities that I like to do that will literally, if you don't know what's going on, it'll surface a lot of behaviors. And then the group will sometimes let you know through your debrief which ones are really happening right now and how it's relating back to what's going on in the real world right now. So we're going to do this activity here. It's called 52 card pickup. Did you guys remember playing that game when you were a kid? Has anyone not played the game of 52 card pickup? Okay, because I do find a couple. Now you guys didn't have mean older brothers named Darren like I did. You were the only child, or that cousin or whoever else. You're like, so the traditional way of playing 52 card pickup is that someone, like your brother Darren, says, "Hey, Michelle, you want to play a game?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, and he throws a deck of cards at you, and he says, 52 card pickup, right? So not the most fun game, right? Now that I'm a grown-up, and now that I get paid to play games for a living, we've changed the rules to 52 card pickup. Now it's kind of an awesome game. Here's what's going to happen. In a minute, I'm going to spread all these cards out on the floor, and we're going to actually do this in two small groups. Okay, so we'll have two of these going at one time. You're going to notice that on one side of the cards is a playing card. On the other side of the card, there are three things. There's an icebreaker question, a picture, and this little black box that has a statement written in it. Now, the only thing we're playing with for this game is the little black box with a statement in it. So the other things are for other activities that we're not going to do at this time. We'll divide into two small groups, and when your group of 8 or so people is around your deck of cards, then what's going to happen is everybody at the same time will come forward and you will pick up one of the cards. You're going to look for that little black box. Now, whatever is written in that black box is for your eyes only. Okay, you can't show anybody your card. You can't tell anybody what you're doing. There are 52 jobs that need to be completed by your team. Okay, now some of the jobs, when you pick them up and read them, you can do all by yourself. You don't need any help. So pretty simple. But other jobs, you're going to have some help from other people on your team in order to do that job successfully. But you can't tell anybody what you're doing. You have to figure out a way to get them to help you complete that job without really telling them what they're doing. The game is over then when all 52 jobs have been picked up and done to the best of your team's ability. So for you, when you pick up that job, you continue doing that job until you feel that you have done it to the best of your ability within the confines of this room. If you feel like you would need to leave this room for any reason, or if you feel like it's impossible within the confines of the room, then you don't have to do that one. And then you may just pick up another card. Now, I would recommend not putting the card back down in the center after you're finished with it. Otherwise, it's a really long game, right? Okay. As in any challenge program, because I'm a big believer in challenge by choice, right? Like you get to choose your level of challenge, right? Remember we talked about that with the comfort zone, the stretch zone, the danger zone. If you pick up one of those cards and you read that and you go, I am not doing that, then you have a choice. You may put that card back down, but recognize somebody on your team will have to do that job because the name of the game is 52 card pickup, not 51 card pickup. So the activity is over when your team has successfully picked up and completed all 52 of those jobs. Okay? Are there any questions so far on what we're doing? All right, then let's have half the group get around this here, and I'm going to put another deck of cards out right here.
I recommend one deck for about every 8 to 10 people is what I recommend.
Fan these out right here.
To be even. 8
Yeah, 8 and 8 would be good. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you may begin.
Okay, so while you're watching here, you can see there, play rock, paper, scissors. So I have a deck right here. So some of the jobs that people have to do then are make up a handshake with someone and teach it to somebody else. Pretend to be a bus driver and get as many people as possible to ride on your bus. Get everyone to stand in a circle, but don't be obvious. Skip all the way around the room and don't be obvious. Stand on one leg until you get 5 other people to do the same thing and no talking. Stand really close to someone until they tell you to go away. Do 25.3 jumping jacks. Do a quick log roll, but don't be obvious. That one's one of my favorites. Listen to someone with great interest for 1 minute. Find a pen and give somebody your autograph. Invite people to sing a few rounds of row, row, row your boat with you. Do a little dance and don't stop until someone smiles at you. So you can see lots of different kind of crazy behaviors. And when they're all happening all at the same time, it gets really chaotic. So one, people love it because it's a super fun activity. It really is. And two, there's challenge. You have to try to figure out, like what do other people need from you? And then there's also that like trying to get other people to you're communicating maybe non-verbally. So there's lots of good stuff packed into this activity. And then the debrief afterwards is really rich. So I usually have people, sit in a circle afterwards and then go around the circle and everyone share 2 or 3 of the jobs that they had to do. And then I kind of like jokingly tell them, and if you need to explain any of your behaviors, this is your opportunity. This is where you get to do it. Because some of the behaviors are kind of crazy. So, and then I kind of take over as the facilitator and then start asking questions like, okay, let's talk about this. Why would I have you do an activity? There's all these kind of crazy behaviors that surface and get them, asking questions. And really my intent behind that is that anytime you get any group of people together, there's going to be a lot of odd behaviors there, like in any 4-H group, in any staff group, like no matter what, a family group, whatever, when you get a whole bunch of people together, there's going to be some different behaviors there. Some of them are going to be ones that you think are really fun and okay. Others will be like, that is super annoying. Why are you doing that? And so then to talk about them specifically, I could pull any one of these cards from here. I'm like, all right, let's now dissect this particular card, this behavior that we surfaced, and how is this like a behavior in the real world? So one of the cards in the deck is make a loud noise until someone tells you to stop. And so the person is like, bah! They just start yelling, right? And everyone else is like, oh my God, what are they? They're like, and then they're trying to figure out what this person needs from them in order to stop making that really loud noise. And then eventually they figure it out. But in the real world, sometimes I use that as a behavior to where some people have no idea when they're like the loudest person in the room. So sometimes I need to be told, they're like, hey, like we've heard from you a few times, let's hear from maybe somebody else. Okay. So that could be one thing. There's another card in there, shake for 60 seconds, right? And so this person literally like just shakes for an entire minute. So then I usually ask people, I'm like, all right, who had that card? And they'll raise their hand. I'm like, all right, who saw this person literally shaking for an entire minute? Usually nobody did. They don't even see them. So then I say, all right, were you so busy doing your job that you completely missed the epileptic seizure that was happening right next to you? Right. And so sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, when you put it that way, like how that is so crazy. Or like do a log roll, but don't be obvious. Right. So I'm like, so I ask who did that card? And then they'll raise their hand. I'm like, how many of you saw this person lay down on the ground and roll over? And normally people, they don't even see it, especially with that don't be obvious statement on there. People don't even see it. And so I'm like, isn't that crazy that you were so busy doing your job that like a grown-up or a human being laid down on the ground and rolled over, and you like within 2 feet of you, and you did not even see it. So so there's lots of good things that you could surface in that particular in this particular activity. So I know you haven't seen all the cards, but the 52 behaviors that are there are let's see, I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. Am I? Let me share it again. Here we go. So so what I like about I think I'm sharing my screen. Are you guys seeing my screen right now? I think you are. Can you give me a
yeah, we are.
Okay, okay, awesome. Okay, so the 52 behaviors. And so just brainstorm for a minute in the chat box, just like some of the ones that you heard me describe. What would be some metaphorical links back to real world behaviors? Like, what are some of them there that you can think of? Let's see here. I also, some of the another question. So while you're populating that, I'll keep talking a little bit, but another question that I ask in the debrief is, how many of you had to put your own job on hold in order to help somebody else out? Every single person will raise their hand. I'm like, how is that like, you know, us as a group, us as a team? How do we have to make sure that we get our own responsibilities done, but also make sure that we're being helpful to others that might need some assistance and things like that? So that's another great one. It is hands down my favorite activity. I don't leave home without these cards anymore because they're so fun. And people love them. They really do. It's a fan favorite. So you could just totally brainstorm how I came up with this activity. I originally designed it for summer camp counselors, because most of the time summer camp counselors are between the ages of 18 to 25. For some people, it's their first professional job or even volunteer job. And most people in that age range, they might not have their own kids yet. And yet we make them responsible for 10-year-olds all at one time, right? And so for me, I'm like, I need to create an activity that makes it feel like you're working with 10-year-olds all at one time. And this activity totally does that. I'm gonna pull my chat box down here so I can see it. The not noticing when someone needs help would be a good way to prepare them before show day so that they can be aware of who's in their club. And on such a hectic day, that is a fantastic metaphoric link. I love that, Cindy. Working with kids and thinking about people with disabilities. How are we all different? How can we help another? You know, there was one time I did, you know, the make a loud noise until someone tells you to stop. Like, that's a funny card to throw into the activity. But at the end, there was actually somebody there in the group that had Tourette's syndrome. And for them, they're like, this is sometimes like, I can't control it. It just happens. And, you know, I love that we can't just kick people out of our group because they have different behaviors. We got to figure out, I mean, because humans are quirky. Like, we all have all these different weird behaviors, right? And we have to figure out how to work with the quirk, right? Like, we have to figure out, how are we going to work with this behavior if it's a part of our group and someone that needs to be included and we want here in our group? So the rock, paper, scissors 3 times, getting someone engaged in a process. I love it. That's great. Recognizing strengths in the group. Oh, another great one too. How to communicate effectively if you could figure out what cards or jobs would fit within the group. That's a great one. That's a perfect one. I also like to ask the question, how many of you put a card back down? Right. And so that right there can also be a great discussion. Like, what was it that maybe would have pushed you a little bit too far outside your comfort zone? And what was it that made you put that down? You know, one of them is sing the national anthem, you know, somewhat loudly. And so for some people, they're like, I don't even know the words, or like, I have a terrible voice or whatever. And for other people, they own it. They'll pick that card up and then they'll just rock the national anthem. And so it's really fun to also play into some people's strengths and some people's development areas and things like that. So, okay, let's see here. As if this activity here is another one this is a non-prop one. And it is another one that if you need to surface specific behaviors in your club, this is a great, simple non-prop activity that could be considered an icebreaker, but you could also do, you could make it light and fun, or you can really surface really specific behaviors as well. So let's watch the video and then I'll share with you the debriefing part afterwards. Okay. It's called As If. Okay.
If you all of a sudden have surfaced something in a behavior earlier, and now all of a sudden you want to continue with that theme later, you're in a debrief or something pops up that is like something that happened in the morning, a good skill to have as an experiential facilitator is to be able to draw upon an experience that the group already has had together, and link that, just like, oh, this is a lot like what happened earlier today. And I've actually done that quite a bit just naturally in the program. Remember when we talked about comfort zone, stretch zone, danger zone, right? You're linking whatever is happening now back to an experience that you already had. This next activity we're gonna do is a great one that can surface whatever behavior you want, and you can link it to something that happened earlier if you want to as well. So I need you to find a partner and then stand about 5 or 6 feet away from your partner facing them.
Or 2 meters.
Okay? The name of this activity is called As If. All right? So what's going to happen here in a moment is I'm going to give you a role that I would like you to play out with your partner. And you're going to walk towards your partner and greet them as if you were in this role that I'm about to give you. Okay? Now, I want you to stay in that role for about 60 seconds. And then when you hear my clicker go off, then that means that round is over. And then you will physically separate and get back into this position that you're standing in right now. For this first interaction, go ahead and greet your partner as if you were long-lost college roommates. Ready, go. Separate, stand about 6 feet away from your partner. Okay, so tell me about that interaction. What was that interaction like? It was fun. It was fun. It was lively. Was there anyone not excited to see their college roommate? Right? Because some of us have those, right? We're like, you just choose not to find each other on Facebook, maybe. No, but usually this first interaction that I do with this activity, I pick something light and fun. When you're an adult group, you can use long lost college roommate, right? But if you're in a kid group, you're going to pick something that's more kid related, right? Like it's your first time seeing your best friend in school after you haven't seen them all summer, or something like that, or a long lost cousin. And the beauty of this activity is that it's role playing, and most people out in the world, myself included, hate role plays, right? Especially when it's the fishbowl kind of role play, when everyone's watching my acting skills and things like that. So what I love about this, it is 60 seconds worth of role playing. Everyone's doing it at the exact same time. Nobody is really watching my acting skills, and yet we're still surfacing some behaviors. This one here was surfacing, just fun and greeting and meeting people. So if you have any behavior that you need to surface in your program, do it through a little role play.
So that one there is that you saw just a really simple, light, and as the icebreakers, long lost college roommates or whatever. But what I would do next, so I always do 3 in a row. 3, sometimes 4, depending on how much time I have. So the next one, I would pick some sort of interaction that happens, in the group. So for you all, let's say you're doing club meetings, have your partner, have one person be the 4-H'er that has been in the club for several years. And then the other person, you're going to play the role of the newcomer, somebody that it's their first meeting that they've ever been at. So, so then you say, okay, so, 4-H alumni, or for those that have been in the program a long time, go ahead and walk forward and greet the newcomer as if it's their first time they've ever been to one of our club meetings. Ready, go. And then they would come to, so then the interaction is really authentic, because it should be something that they, then they practice, like how to, welcome people and different things like that. And, and again, it's only 60 seconds. And then you say, okay, have a clicker or something, go ahead and separate, stand about 2 meters away from your partner. And then you're like, all right, what was that experience like? Let's hear from our newcomers. Those of you that were in the newcomer role, what was that experience like? How did your seasoned 4-H person, how did they greet you? And so you hear some ideas from some of the kids, and then talk to the seasoned 4-Hers. I'm like, all right, what was that like? Walking forward and greeting this new person that maybe you didn't know before. And then I would do a second one. The second one could be, okay, I have one person that's going to be the 4-H judge, and have the other person be, and you could pick whatever. Maybe it's a food judge, maybe it's like whatever project at the fair it is, or districts or county or whatever it is, and have them, whatever project is, photography, whatever it is, go ahead and walk forward and greet the judge as if you're meeting them for the first time when you're giving your presentation. Ready, go. And so then they get this 60 seconds worth of practice time. And for especially the younger kids that maybe have never done it before, like that's going to be, they're going to have different questions to ask. Like, well, what do you ask? Like, after they have the experience, it's going to play out the way that it's going to play out. And then after that, then you can stop and like stand your 2 meters apart from one another and then ask. I'm like, all right, what was that like to approach a judge for the first time? What were some of the feelings you experienced? Were you nervous? Were you confident? What's your handshake like? Like all of those things that matter when we're making a good first impression. So, and then you could pick a different one, right? So you could see this one here is the most customizable. You could, if you did no other activity at the beginning of a monthly meeting, you could do this one and just pick 3 different interactions every single time. And it's non-prop. And then you do these little mini debriefs afterwards, and then you introduce the new role. It's awesome. It's so great. So populate the chat box. What would be some great interactions? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to share out loud as well. But what are some ideas that as you're listening to me and as you see that there, what are some ideas of different role play interactions that would work really well for your audience? Assuming that all of you work with different clubs all over, what might be some different interactions that you could think of outside of the ones I gave you? So the welcoming a new person, meeting the judge for the first time, what might be another great interaction role play that you could brainstorm? What you got? Anybody got one? Okay, let's see here. Canvassing to invite buyers to a sale. That is fantastic. Absolutely. Especially come to the livestock sale or something like that. Starting your speech or presentation for the first time in front of someone or a group. Meeting your hero. That's a great one. Absolutely. Talking to sponsors, maybe tying in impromptu topics. I like that. Let's see here. Tanya, can you give a couple? I don't know if it's Tanya or Tanya. Sorry if I'm butchering that. What might be some impromptu topics that you can think of? And again, anything that could be like current and relevant. Sometimes I'll throw in like, maybe if you had to go and talk to a leader that you didn't necessarily like. Because sometimes we have to have conversations with people that we don't always agree with. So you could like surface something like that. When I do it with adult groups, so you could do this with kids group as well. I sometimes will be like, all right, go and greet your partner as if you guys had a conflict last week during school and you haven't talked to one another since. And now you're seeing this person for the first time at our 4-H meeting. Ready to go. So then it teaches them some, how do you approach people that you've had conflict with? Do you talk about it? Do you not talk about it? So like, effective conflict resolution skills are essential skills that we need to learn as leaders, right? So Cindy also says consumer marketing. You've role played public speaking for new members. Absolutely. Awesome. So that one there, again, it's non-prop, it's easy. Another thing that you can do also is I use that sometimes as a, if I ever have side talkers in my program, side talking for whatever reason, that is the behavior in participants. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like when I'm trying to talk and trying to tell people something and then I have people side talking, it drives me crazy. And so the structure of this activity where you have 2 people become partners and then have them stand 2 meters apart. Sometimes I don't even do the activity, but if I just need to separate the side talkers, I will set up the activity as if I'm about to do it, but then I don't actually do it. So, because of course, when you say find a partner, who do people partner with? The best friend they have in the room, right? And so, which of course, that's probably who you're side talking with. And so then I'm like, okay, great. You know what? Everyone find a partner. And then the side talkers partner up. Great. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and separate, stand about 6 feet away or 2 meters away from your partner, turn and face them. And so they do it. And then you just go on talking about whatever you wanted them to hear. And what I love about it is because, and it could be that maybe this person over here is standing really close to another person over here, but because they're not partners, they won't talk to each other. It's awesome. It's one of those little back pocket facilitator tricks that I keep in my back pocket that you can only get away with it like once or twice, but man, for those 2 times, it's pretty fantastic. So anyway, that's one of those little facilitator tips that I sometimes give. So, All right, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and let's dive back into our next. What's our next activity? Okay, so this one here, just kind of debriefing the as if, great non-prop activity, and then we kind of already brainstormed our own scenarios, and then the behavior management tool. That's how I totally separate side talkers, and it works great for adults as well. So if you're ever at a district meeting or something like that, everyone's side talking, then totally pull this out of your pocket. It's awesome. All right, pair tag. Let's do a couple of just, I thought I'd throw in a couple like just energizer games. Sometimes we just need to raise the energy in the room. This one here, this is actually a 4-H group, actually that I did with a group. And this was also great because if you've got, you know, younger kids with older kids and whatnot, this activity here, pair tag, is it's a partner tag game. And it's awesome. And you can do it, you can do it with large groups, you can do it with small groups. Sometimes we only have 6 kids show up to our meetings and we still need to raise the energy in the room. So you can do pair tag with 6, you can do pair tag with 100 if you had a lot of kids in your club as well. So let's watch pair tag. This one's really fun.
We're going to play a game called pair tag. First, I need you to find a partner. So, lost and found, find a partner and stand next to a partner. Okay. And then I will be someone's partner. Okay, you're going to be playing tag with just this person. Okay, whoever your partner is, you're going to be playing tag with them. Okay. Now our boundaries are just this small area right here. Okay. So what's going to happen? First, you need to decide who's going to be it first and who's going to be tagged first. Okay. So decide that now. I'll be it first. Okay, because we're going to demonstrate. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. In a minute, I'm going to start a countdown from 3, 2, 1. As soon as I say go, now during the 3, 2, 1, whoever is being tagged first, that is your opportunity to get away from the person that is going to be your tagger. Okay. So now this is a walking game. Okay, so say that with me, please. This is a walking game. Excellent. So everyone understands that this is a walking game. Okay. When I start that countdown, 3, 2, 1, and the tagger, or the person that's being tagged, starts walking away. As soon as I say go, then the person who's it can start walking after the person that they are tagging. If I say 3, 2, 1, go, and he starts to walk away from me, as soon as I catch him and I tag him, he becomes it. You have to do a full 360 before you can come after me. And in that 360, that is my opportunity to get away from the person, from Chad, who's now it, okay? And then as soon as if he were to tag me, now I become it again. I have to do a 360 before I start walking after him again, okay? Now we're only gonna play for about 2 minutes, and you'll be surprised at how tired you are in a 2-minute time period by walking around in a circle, but I promise you'll be tired. All right, now that everyone knows the rules, is there anyone that needs to maybe step out of the activity for any physical reasons? If so, let me know, and then I'll pair you up with Chad as the partner. If everyone's good? All right, ready? Any questions before we go? 3, 2, 1, go!
I'm coming for you, girl. I'm coming for you.
I just need to ask the question, did everyone remember the rule that it's a walking game, right? I bring this game up from the physical safety point of view because even if you tell people it's a walking game, when you're playing tag, your speed will take over and you will stop following the walking rule. But as the facilitator, it's still my responsibility to keep the room physically safe. Because how many of you had little tiny collisions with someone else in the room just at a quote-unquote walking pace, right? If we were running, there would be massive injuries. This is an activity that I do. Phase 1, I say walking. Nobody ever walks, right? And so this is a great opportunity for me now as the facilitator to say, okay, great, we have a responsibility to keep everybody safe today. Nothing is worth getting hurt over today, physically or emotionally. We're gonna play this game again. However, this time, I'm going to control the way that we move. Because walking, when we say that, it's hard not to pick up your pace. So this time, when you are it, and when you are being tagged, both people will do this. The way that you're going to be moving is heel-toe walking. Okay? Now, heel-toe walking, it's very difficult to go really, really fast when you are heel-toe walking. So that will help slow down the pace, keep everybody physically safe. So decide who's going to be it first and who's going to be the tagged first. You be it first this time, okay? 3, 2, 1, go.
It's the giggliest game. For whatever reason, you just giggle the entire time that you're walking.
And stop. All right, great job.
So paratag, it's great because you can play it. I always do the heel toe walking if I have a mixed age group as well, because sometimes big kids can mow over little kids. Not intentionally, of course, but when you're being chased and, when you're playing tag, you will naturally want to pick up the pace. So you can do it with small groups, you can do it with large group, and it's just a great way. It is the giggliest game. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, you cannot help but just to giggle and laugh the entire time. And it's a 2-minute game. So if you just need a quick 2-minute energizer to pick up the energy in the group, play a quick round of pair tag. It's really easy and fun. So, all right. So that is pair tag. It's great because there's no props, smaller, large groups. And again, heel toe walking to slow down the pace. All right. Handshakes. Oh, it's one of my favorite icebreakers. Handshakes are not necessarily a new activity. I've done them for years, but the way that I facilitate handshakes is a little different than how some people have done them. So we're going to watch the handshake video and then we'll debrief afterwards. This is another great non-prop activity.
We're now going to talk about role modeling behaviors, and we're still technically in the icebreaker phase of the program as well. I have this great activity we're going to do that can also be an icebreaker, a name game, as well as it's a great way to demonstrate how to role model behaviors and basically get your participants to do what you want them to do. For this activity, everybody needs a partner. So go ahead and stand next to whoever's standing near you. Just find a partner. Okay, oh, there you go, perfect. See that lost and found? It works, right? It works. All right, so now at Training Wheels, we get all kinds of crazy phone calls from time to time into the office about the different types of programs that people want me to come out and lead, or one of my staff to come out and lead. So one time I actually got a phone call from a lumberjack convention, and they wanted me to come out and do some name games and some icebreakers to kick off their conference. I was like, okay, I'll totally go and hang out with lumberjacks, and do some fun name games and icebreakers. So I show up to this conference, and people were greeting each other kind of a weird way that I had never seen before. Now, I'm a very curious, kind of extroverted person, and I ask a lot of questions. So I went up to these people and I was like, what is that? Right? And they were like, well, that's the lumberjack handshake. You've never seen that before? I said, no, you teach that to me. And they said, sure. So the lumberjack handshake looks like this. Now, Shelly's my partner. Shelly, would you put your thumb up like this? There you go. Now, I'm going to grab your thumb. Now, you grab my thumb. And then I'm going to grab your last thumb there. And then we're going to saw a log back and forth like this. And then we're going to say our names lumberjack style. So it'll be Shelly Michelle, Shelly Michelle, Shelly Michelle, like as if we were gruff lumberjacks, right? Okay, so go ahead and greet your partner with the lumberjack handshake. So I'll grab your, there you go, either way is fine. Shelly Michelle, Shelly Michelle, Shelly Michelle, Shelly Michelle. Awesome. With your lumberjack handshake partner, I want you to just discuss what's something that you're really looking forward to getting out of this course, why you're here, and what's something you're really hoping to get out of it, and discuss that with your lumberjack handshake partner.
And you can make your question be whatever you want.
Now I need you to remember who your lumberjack handshake partner is, because we're going to be back with this partner in just a moment. So let's say, adios amigos. Adios, amigos. And what I need you to do is find a new partner. I'm going to teach you a new handshake. So find a new partner. This lumberjack convention that I was at was way up in Canada. And at the time, I had never been to Alaska before. I thought, you know what, I'm this far north. I'm going to take a little time off from work. I'm a fly fisher. It's one of my hobbies. And so I thought, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to fly over. And it was right during the salmon run. So I landed in Anchorage. I just hired a guide service, and we go out to the river. For me, I totally thought that when you go fishing in Alaska, that it's just you and the fish and the bears and the guide. That is not the case. It's like combat fly fishing, because everybody in Alaska is out on the river during the salmon run because everybody's trying to catch their daily limit to put in their freezers for the year, right? I noticed that people kept walking up to my guide. So he was evidently really well known in the area, and people kept greeting him in a weird way that I had never seen before. So being the curious kind of extroverted person that I am, I went up and I asked, I'm like, what is that? And they're like, well, that's the salmon handshake. You've never seen that before? And I said, no, will you teach that to me? He said, sure. So the salmon handshake looks like this. Now, if you have long sleeves on, just push them up a little bit because the sound effects on this one are kind of cool. So what I want you to do is just stick your arms straight out in front of you. I'm going to zipper my arms up with yours, so it looks like a zipper every other arm, right? And then move them a little bit closer together. And then the tails of the salmon just slap back and forth against one another just like that, okay? So greet your partner, your salmon handshake partner with the salmon handshake. Okay. There you go. We all know that the plight of the salmon, they have a really challenging swim upstream, right? Keeping in mind that challenging swim upstream, I now want you to discuss with your salmon handshake partner, what's something about facilitation that challenges you sometimes?
Or what's something
so go
about
ahead and
4-H
discuss that with
challenges
your
you?
salmon handshake partner. I need you to remember who your salmon handshake partner is. Let's say hasta la vista. And find one more new partner. I'm going to teach you one more new handshake. So go ahead and find one more new partner. I finally get back home after this crazy trip that I've been on. I get back in the office, and the very next day after I get back, I had a job interview with this gentleman that wanted to come and work at Training Wheels. So he shows up to the office, and I go to greet him at the door, and I stick my hand out to shake his hand, and he went like this. I was like, what is that? He's like, well, I'm from Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's famous for what? Cheese, and cheese comes from cows. So one of you are going to make the udders, and the other person is going to milk the udders. Like that. Okay, so go ahead and greet your cow handshake partner. You're like, all right, now I'm curious, by show of hands, how many of you did I just push outside your comfort zone? Maybe a little bit. A couple of you? Yeah, I could, by a couple of the looks on your faces, there were a couple of you were like, I don't even think that's legal in Colorado. I don't even know if we can do that or not, right? But I do that intentionally. I love the handshake that pushes people outside their comfort zone a little bit, because the next question that I want you to discuss with your cow handshake partner is, what is something about facilitation that sometimes really stretches you or really
something about
pushes you outside your
really
comfort zone?
stretches you.
Okay, and discuss that with your cow handshake partner. What we're going to do next is what I call a handshake frenzy. Okay, now what that means is I'm going to call out the name of one of those 3 handshakes. You're going to quickly go find the person that you originally did that handshake with. And you'll quickly do that handshake. Then I'm going to call out the name of another handshake. Then you'll quickly go find that person and do that handshake. Now, when I say frenzy and I say quickly, it does not mean you have to body check people out of your way trying to find your partner. I'll give you plenty of time to find that person, okay? And if it gets really loud, because it does, if it gets too loud and you can't, you're like, what are we doing? Look to me and I'll be actually doing the signal for it. And that way you know which handshake we're on, okay? All right, go find your salmon handshake partner. There you are right there. Yeah, that's all right, that's all right. All right, go find your lumberjack handshake partner. There you are. All right, go find your cow handshake partner. Right? I was a farmer. I know how to do that, right? All right, great job. Now get back into a big circle if you would, please. All right, now I know this will probably come as a really big shock to most of you, but I made all those stories up. So, like, how many were like, no, right? Now, there are some people that are really disappointed that I've never been to a lumberjack convention, myself included, because I think that actually kind of sounds fun. However, so for this particular activity of handshakes, though, it's one of my favorite icebreakers, but also it's a great activity to show you there was no question what you needed to do, right? Because I role modeled and physically showed you exactly what you needed to do. This one breaks the touch barrier, right, early on in the program, because we've now, and we're all being silly at the same time together. From the icebreaker point of view, there's so much good stuff packed into the handshake activity. And then for me personally, I like to try to find a handshake that matches metaphorically the content that I'm trying to teach. Because now you're infusing learning and skills that you want them to learn and talk about right into your icebreaker as well. The salmon handshake one, I wanted you to talk about what is challenging about being a facilitator. What pushes you outside your comfort zone? And those metaphors lead right to it. And again, it breaks that touch barrier. Now that we've kind of expanded and I've kind of allowed other people into my bubble a little bit, it helps in that icebreaker type of phase.
All right. The other thing I love about it too is that now I have established partners. So I know when you work with kids and you say, find a partner, who do they partner with? The best friend they have in the room. So I let them have it for one. That's the lumberjack handshake, right? So when you say find a partner, so I know moving forward, the lumberjack handshake is the best friend handshake. So moving forward, I probably won't use it as much because sometimes when we're with our best friends, that's not what our best behaviors are, right? So then when, I'll use the salmon and the cow handshake or whatever other handshakes I use moving forward. And now I'm probably going to help, kids kind of expand their comfort zone on who they're hanging out with and maybe expand their friends, as well, to where they're getting to know more people, especially if I have other partner activities they want them to do later. And this is a great way where you can start incorporating the content for your meeting into the icebreaker itself. And again, I talked a little bit about how it breaks that touch barriers and you have those established partners. Now, I will tell you, I have probably 15 different handshakes that I use. These are 3 of my favorites, but I have about 15 of them. And on the Training Wheels YouTube channel, I've got lots of handshake videos. So if you just go to YouTube and you search Michelle Cummings Training Wheels, you'll find my channel. And then type in handshakes and you'll find all my handshake videos. And basically I put together and I share with you all. I have a partner, Chris Cabert, who's my podcast co-host as well. We do a bunch of videos together and we show you, the different handshakes, why we like them, some of the metaphors we use. So that's another great free resource that you can go and find new activities. And also this one's non-prop, so it's super simple. So, all right. Other creative pairing techniques, if you need other ways to pair people up, playing cards are fantastic because you got the number, the suit, and the color. So, if you've got 13 kids that are coming to your to your meeting, then there are 13 cards in any suit. So if you wanted to separate by number, by suit, or by color, you could mix some of those up. So that's another great way to randomly find partners as well, is by using playing cards. You could also use dominoes, just randomly toss out some dominoes. Everyone go find one, go find someone you can connect with on, by either number on either end. You could also do, kids don't like this one as much, but it's effective. You do what's called canoe kayak, where you're like, all right, everyone find a partner. And of course they're going to partner with their bestie in the room, right? Like, all right, one of you are going to be the canoe and one of you are going to be the kayak. So decide who's going to be which role. So they do this. I'm like, all right, go ahead, turn and face your partner. All right. And then just take one step back and take one step back and take one step back and then wave at your partner because they're going to be in the other group. Canoes over here and kayaks over here. Kids don't like that one, but man, you do separate the best friends. And sometimes it's awesome. The other one is this one, clasp hands. So this one here, you can do right now. Everyone go ahead and take your hands and put them out in front of you as if you were about to clap. And then just interlace your fingers and just clasp your hands together. All right, if your left thumb is on top, raise your hand. I'm a left thumber on top, so you're my people. But okay, now if your right thumb is on top, raise your hand. You would be surprised, but it's about half of your group. Half of your group will be left thumbs on top and the other half of the group will be right thumbs on top. So that's another way you can use, you can divide it. Another way that I use this exact same activity though, if you got my newsletter last week, I did a whole newsletter article on this particular activity. But if you ever have people that you need to surface the behavior around behavior change and why it's hard to change our behaviors, so go ahead, clasp your hands together again in the way that's natural and normal. Okay, that's my left thumb on top. Now try to do it the other way. Like, oh my God, that feels so weird, right? Like there are people that walk around in this world that think that's normal, right? It could be somebody that you know really well. And so I'm like, now is your way right and the other way wrong? No, but it just makes them different. It's the same way, same thing, just done a little bit differently. And that right there is why behavior change is hard. Because if I told you, if I asked you, I'm like, all right, from here on, you can't do it the way that you've been doing it for the last 40 years or 50 years or however old you are. You now can only do it the other way. Do you think you would probably screw up and maybe go back to what's the old way you've been doing it forever? Of course you would, right? Because this feels weird, it's awkward, and it doesn't feel right. And so, so that right there, I use that from a change management point of view. Like if you ever have to implement change in your club or in any organization, behavior change is hard because we've been doing it this way for so long and it just feels good. It feels right to do it that way, right? And so to do it the other way just feels awkward. Now, here's another way you can do it. Just fold your arms in front of you. Okay, if your left arm is on top, raise your hand. Okay, I'm also a left arm on top. If your right arm is on top, then raise your hand. Okay, now try to do it the other way. Some people can't even do it. Like, it feels so weird. You're like, oh my God, it feels so awkward, right? Like, there's no way that this would ever be normal for me. I'm like, I don't know, my arms just don't even bend that way, right? So really quick 60-second experiential activity on why behavior change is hard. I like to teach this one to school teachers or any youth professional that works with youth that has to have conversations with parents. Maybe you have a kid in your club that needs a behavior change, right? Maybe they're doing a very disruptive behavior and we need them to stop doing it. But again, it's going to be really easy for them to slip back in it. This is the activity that I use with parents. If I ever have to have a conversation with them, I'm like, all right, we need to establish a new behavior pattern and we need to stop this old behavior and do this. But just so you know, we don't expect them to be perfect the first couple times because of this. And then I'll do the activity with them. I'm like, all right, now do it the other way. Doesn't that feel awkward and weird? That is why behavior change is hard. That is why we know he's not going to be perfect the first couple of times he tries this new behavior on, because it's going to feel different and awkward and whatnot. So I teach that. If you are a teacher and you do parent-teacher conferences, like any time where you have to have a conversation with a parent about their child's behavior, especially a behavior that needs to change, I will do this little quick 60-second experiential, and it really does go a long way. So, okay. All right. Let me look at what time it is. Yeah, it is 8:12. Let me pop out of my slide deck for just a second. And I'm going to see where we want to go next. Blah, 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 blah. I think I'm going to we got 15 minutes left. So I'm going to move to this particular activity here. I've got probably 3 more we've got time for. So I'm going to just fast forward a little bit. You'll still get all the instructions in the handout. But I'm going to fast forward just for this. Okay, here we go. Oh, that did not do what I wanted it to do. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to hit share my screen. Here we go. And now I got to go in right here. Okay. Okay, and now I got to go right here. Okay, so all right, the next activity I'm going to show you is it's non-prop, and it's one that you can do pretty much anywhere. You can do it outside, you can do it inside, and it's a great activity that teaches you a little bit about how the human brain is wired. And when you have to give a lot of instructions to kids or people in general, this is a great activity that surfaces listening skills, that surfaces the art of effective directions. It's a good one. All right, so let's watch switch, change, rotate activity, and then we'll debrief it afterwards.
For this next activity, what I need you to do is get into groups of 4 or 5 people and stand in a single file line, one right behind the other. Okay? So little groups of 4 or 5. There you go. This activity is going to move us into the skill of the art of effective directions. It's also going to play into a little bit of the role modeling, but also kind of walking your group through effectively how to give directions well when doing an experiential activity. For this particular activity, it's called switch, change, rotate. Each one of those 3 words has a different action that you guys will need to perform. Now, this is your new little team of people. Okay, so you're all working together in your own small little team. Some people are really good at this activity. Other people have other gifts. And they might need some assistance from other team members in order to do this activity well. So work with one another, be nice, and help one another through this activity. I'm going to call out one of those 3 words, either switch, change, or rotate. Whenever you hear that, your group has to perform the action that goes with switch, change, or rotate. Okay? So if you hear me call out switch, the person at the front of the line and the person at the back of the line are going to switch places. Okay? So switch. Okay, awesome. Now, middle people, you also need to know that because you will not always be in the middle, okay? So if you just went, whew, I don't have to do anything, you do need to do something. So you need to know that one as well. Now, the next command you might hear me call out is change. If you hear me call out change, the whole group is going to change direction 180 degrees. So change. Now you have a new front of the line. The front of the line is whatever direction your group is facing, okay? Switch. Nicely done. Person at the front of the line, person at the back of the line, switch places. All right, and change. One more time, so you're back in your original position. The next command you're going to hear me call out is rotate. If you hear me call out rotate, the person at the front of the line will rotate to the back of the line. Rotate. See, middle people? I told you your time was coming. Rotate. Change. Oh, change direction, 180 degrees. See, I told you. Some people are going to be really good at this. Some people might not. Switch. Person at the front of the line, person at the back of the line, switch places. Good job. And change direction one more time. Those are the 3 basic commands, okay? You have all the skills that you need to be successful at this activity now, okay? I'm going to throw in one more command, and this command is called move. As soon as you hear me say move, your whole little group is just going to start choo-choo training and snaking around the room. So you're going to be moving while I call out switch, change, and rotate. A couple rules of play is go slow. But there's no need for speed in this activity to go slow. So that A should help you. B, if there's another group that is really challenged by this and they are fractured and half of them are over here and half of them over there, please don't cut through a group. Like that just causes confusion and delay and all kinds of chaos. So don't cut through another group. Be nice to the other groups too. And if there's somebody that just freezes in your group and is like, I don't even know what my name is right now, then just go ahead and just help them. Don't physically place them. You're like, oh, you're breathing. You know, just help them along. Any questions before we begin? Then move. Switch. Nice. Rotate. Rotate. Person at the front of the line rotates to the back of the line. All right, switch. Person at the front of the line, person at the back of the line, switch. Play. There you go, good. Change. Switch, change. Switch, change. Switch, change, rotate. All right, last one. Rotate, change, switch. All right, and stop. All right, nicely done.
All right, so that one there is awesome. So from an art of effective directions point of view, I always have a group practice those directions, right? Because if I don't let them physically practice, it does not set them up for success. So that's one great thing about this activity. The other thing, the other behavior that this kind of surfaces is that the human brain can only process so much information at one time. Did you notice that when I was just calling out one command at a time, switch, and they would just do it, switch, change, they would just change. But as soon as I said switch, change, the whole group, they paused in place and they all started repeating back in slow motion what I just asked them, switch, change. Like they started repeating back. It's crazy. And then it started, when I got to the 3 commands at a time, switch, change, rotate, switch, change, rotate. And really, so I've led that activity, 1,000 times or more, and that is not an exaggeration. And so, and it happens every single time I facilitate that game. So, and when something happens every single time I play a game, there's something there that is about the way the human brain is wired and something about human behavior there. And so really in this particular one, when people get a lot of information thrown at them, the brain has to process each one of the things. And so it's the brain's way of like, almost like you stop, you kind of freeze, and then you process, switch, you process the next thing, change, and you process the next thing and rotate, right? And then you're able to move on. And it's the same when we're giving directions to kids. If we fire off 12 directions that we need kids to remember, like, here's what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. And like, you've got to give the brain a chance to catch up. So this one here, people will always repeat back what they heard you say, especially when you start throwing multiple things at them. It's also one of my favorite activities. If you ever have to move a group from point A to point B, switch, change, rotate along the way. So if you're at camp, you got to go from the cabins to the dining hall or something like that. It's a great one. And then when you get there, then you can sit, you can debrief what they learned. It's a fantastic, great non-prop activity that people really like. So, and you can play it more than once, like you can, and then they just keep getting better and better at it. So you can always do speed, switch, change, rotate after a while. So, all right, let me do a quick time check. Okay, back to back. Now we're going to move into a couple of debriefing activities. Back to back, this is a great non-prop activity that you can do. It's kind of a little bit like as if, but a little bit different as well. So let's watch back to back, and then I have one more activity I want to share with you, and then we'll be finished up.
Find a partner and stand back to back with them, please. And someone gets to be my partner. It's you. Yay. Oh. All right. So this is a great non-prop activity to where if you wanted everybody to discuss the question, then have them start out back to back like this, and then say, in a minute, I'm going to say front to front. And when you hear me say front to front, you're just going to turn, face your partner, and what I'd like you to discuss with them is, who do you think the leader was in that last activity and why? Who was maybe the leader in your little small group, if there was one, and why you would have chosen them. Discuss that with them. And then when you hear me say back to back, I want you to get back in this position. Okay? Ready? Front to front. Who was the leader in that activity?
I think I was.
You were. Back to back. Okay, this is another amazing thing about this activity is that as soon as two people aren't facing one another, they stop talking. Do you notice how quiet it is? It's an amazing thing. As soon as you have people face away from their partner, even though Tegan and I totally could have a conversation with her, I won't talk to her because she's not my partner. It's this weird phenomena that happens. And so it's also another one of those facilitator tools that if you say, okay, if everyone is side talking or whatever, like find a partner. Okay, great, stand back to back with them. They don't talk when they're back to back. It's very funny. When I say front to front, what I want you to do is I want you to find a new partner, and I want you to discuss this. So if you were using the what, so what, now what, you could continue that sequence and just discuss with them what's one aha that you've had out of the day so far. Okay, ready? Front to front. Back to back.
So that one you could use as an icebreaker. You can also use it as debriefing, great debriefing. So it's great because it's non-prop. You do need to establish your questions ahead of time. That's the only thing. I mean, you can think of them off the top of your head, but if you're, at the end of the day, it could just be, or end of your meeting or something like that. What's one new thing you learned today in tonight's meeting? Or what's, one feeling you experienced, or what's something new that you learned, or something like that. And then the last activity I'm going to share with you is called shuffle left, shuffle right. And really, there's really a lot of value in getting kids and adults alike active in their reflection, because when we're physically engaged in our reflection, it actually helps create muscle memory and actually aids in long-term retention. So people remember things better. It also helps manage fatigues, because sometimes at the end of a meeting or at the end of a program, people are tired. And so get people up and active in their reflection can really help them through that last bit. So and you can use this, use them with large groups. You can use them with small groups. Back to back, you could do it with 6 people. You could also do it with 600 people. You really could. So, and then same with this next one, shuffle left, shuffle right. Probably the max I would do on this one might be 50-ish, you had more than that, I might do 2 small groups. But this one here, it's called shuffle left, shuffle right. And then I also use the metaphor of the body. I use the activity called the body part debrief in this one as well. So let's watch the quick video on this one, and then we'll come back, and then I'll have you populate the chat box with some of your reflections, some of your learning. With the brain, something new you learned. With the eyes, what's something new you saw that maybe you are excited about giving a try. With the heart, maybe a feeling you experienced. And you can start populating some answers in the chat box while we watch.
Shuffle left, shuffle right is one of my favorite activities to do for action and reflection. I love it for a lot of reasons. So I'm going to give you the instructions first, and then we'll debrief it afterwards on why I love it so much, okay? In a minute, I'm going to say shuffle to the right. And we're all just going to start shuffling around the circle to the right. If you would like to share an insight from the day, now we're going to use the body parts here as our metaphor for processing. So think about the entire day that we've had together. Give a hand to somebody, or anything that you learned today might support your work, something you learned, a feeling you experienced, a good idea you heard, something new you saw, something that pushed you outside your comfort zone, smiley face, something that made you smile or laugh, whatever it is, you can choose. As we're all shuffling to the right, if you have something you'd like to share, just say stop, and the whole group will stop in place. You can come out, pick up the part, share why you chose that part, and then put the part back, so that way then if somebody else wants to use that same part, they could. And then once you're back in the circle, give the group a direction to go, either shuffle to the left or shuffle to the right, and the whole group will follow. Are there any questions on what we're doing? I'd like at least 6 or 7 people to share, okay? At least. We can do more if you want, okay? All right, shuffle to the right.
Stop. So I'd like to give a hand to Michelle for a fantastic first experiential facilitation 101 training.
Cool, thank you. This is a great example of how you can overlap some of your things. I love to throw the body parts or any type of metaphor in the center to kind of give focus to or in direction to the conversation, but you don't have to have those. I've done this activity lots of times where you just like share an aha that you had from today. Shuffle left, shuffle right.
And then of course, Otis, the person that just shared there after he shared his give a hand, then he would give the group a direction, either shuffle to the left or shuffle to the right, and the whole group would follow suit. So it is a simple non-prop activity that is just, it's awesome. It aids in fatigue. This group here, I think this was about a group of maybe 80-ish in that photo there. So you can see, you can do it with larger groups as well, but it really does help with focus. If you have kids that cannot stand still to save their little souls, this is a great one to do because there's movement, focus. So it's a really great one. And then I always combine with the metaphoric tool. It's a very participant-driven kind of method. Because they're the ones really driving the success of the activity itself. So, and you can use it with large groups or with small groups. So, go ahead and start populating the chat box. Let's see if I have the body part. Let me see here. I have the body parts. I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second. Let me see if I can't. I actually have this as the 4-H pledge as well. Let's see here, let me find it here in my, and I could throw a quick aha up on the screen. Let's see here, there we go. 4-H right here is, where's my body part debrief for 4-H? Well, there it is right here. Okay, so I'm gonna put this up on the, I'm gonna share my screen one more time. And what I want you to do is share with the group. Okay, so with the 4-H pledge debrief, all right, we have our head for our heart, our hands, and our health. But then we also have so I use the foot for our let's see here, there we go, right there. I use the foot and the lungs to kind of represent health. Foot for active learning, the lungs could be for breath of fresh air, the world for how our club affects our communities, countries, and our world. And then the 4-H clover for just to personalize a little bit. So so what I'd like you to do is just populate the chat box with one of those things. So something new you learned, a feeling you experienced, give a hand to somebody, a job, or what was a way maybe that a lot of the activities you learned could support the work that you do. The foot, what's maybe next steps for you, or maybe anything like that. And then, the earth could be something around how can this affect your club? The lungs, maybe this was a breath of fresh air that maybe kind of will breathe some new life into your meetings, anything like that. So, and then we got here in the chat box, I see Nina, the handshaking really engaging will be great for younger, diverse groups. And chuckled through most of that. Yeah, it's a fun one. People love handshakes. And what's great is that they'll remember who their handshake partner was, even like 3 months from now. And then if you just say, hey, is your salmon handshake partner? They'll remember who it is. And then they'll go. And so you still kind of have those same established partners. And then Lena, you said, loved how you can use this not only in 4-H, but also in your job. I love that. Because we can facilitate these activities no matter what groups we work with, your church groups, your school groups, your work groups, whatever you do. So great things for connection, understanding behavior, working with the brain, all those good things. So anyway, well, I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys got some great ideas tonight. And hope that these will really benefit you and your group here at 4-H. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the handout one more time in the chat box. So that way, let's see here, where did my chat box go? There it is. So that way, in case you missed it at the very beginning, you've got the link to all the slides I used tonight in the handout. And then again, if you want to sign up for the let's see here, what's the virtual playground? If you want to sign up for the all those free resources and handouts that I gave, I'll put this link in the chat box as well. So there you go. There's the free resources and handouts as well. So thanks again for letting me be a part of your evening. I know that it's late and sometimes it's hard to stay engaged in a webinar where you're just watching things and not participating as much. So but I appreciate and thanks for staying engaged and staying involved. And I hope you learn new things. And again, go check out our YouTube channel and peruse around our website. We have all kinds of free things that probably give you some good ideas of other things you can do with your kiddos. Thanks for doing what you do. 4-H literally changed my life. And so thank you for whether you're a volunteer or paid staff or whatever you are. Thanks for working with kids in 4-H because it was a foundational program for me and it really did change my life. So thank you guys so much. Tracy, any announcements or anything like that before we close up for the evening?
Nope, that's all, Michelle. Thank you. You always give us lots of ideas and we really appreciate it. So thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Have a good night, everybody.